And speaking of retirements, Hall of Fame, jerseys, you know, I'm going to be talking about the Celtics. And I missed a lot. Missing last week, missed a lot when it came to the Celtics because I didn't miss it when with my reactions, but them losing to the Lakers without Anthony Davis and LeBron James, you can check this out on my Instagram, Boston Sports Summit Instagram page, when I went live to discuss my disdain with the Celtics losing to the Lakers, who didn't have LeBron and AD. Right? That was an unbelievable travesty. That should have never happened. And honestly, the Celtics should have beat the Lakers with Anthony Davis and LeBron on the court. And the fact that they lost, and the brilliant thing was a couple days prior to that, Joe Mazzulla, I'm pretty sure I discussed it on the show. Joe Mazzulla comes out and says, it's an unhealthy expectation. Well, I don't know, Joe. Without Anthony Davis and LeBron, I'm pretty sure that it was a healthy expectation. You should have not only won, but annihilated them. Kicked them out of the building at halftime. That's how you should have won that game. But you lost miserably. And it was just a total joke of a game. Something that, you know what, this team still falls into the trap of playing to their competition sometimes. And even though they're very talented and really probably the best team in basketball talent-wise, they still sit back on their laurels. They still sit back and think the fact that they can don that Celtic uniform and walk out on that court automatically means that it's a victory. And they don't have to do a damn thing about it. Well, sorry, you do. And they were able to bounce back the following game against Memphis in a somewhat, I would say, heartfelt game, because Marcus Smart did return to the Garden for the first time as a Grizzly. And there was a great, Celtic tribute that, the Celtics gave Marcus. And, the fans did right by him and cheered and gave him a standing ovation. But then Gary Washburn, I think, had to go and ruin it, because he then wrote how Marcus Smart should have his number up in the rafters. And to that I go, for being what? A hustle player? A guy with a massive ego and doesn't have the talent to back that up? That's what I want. That's a number that should be up in the rafters. I mean, what are we doing? I understand in his thought is because he changed the Celtic culture. Well, listen, it's not like the culture was, completely lost, because the year before he gets drafted, the Celtics traded Pierce and Garnett and Terry to Brooklyn. So yeah, they had one down year, maybe two tops, but really, we're gonna make Marcus Smart the poster child to the team that, quite honestly, sucks yet overperforms on a consistent basis? Because that's what they did, and it was great. It was fun to watch. I'm not going to sit here and deny it. Watching Isaiah go off in the playoffs, it was just missed a fourth quarter. He was unbelievable. To have Marcus Smart be the guy. But then when we drafted Jaylen Brown, and then when we drafted Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart still acted like he was the guy. And that is not what you need. He needed to hand that over to Jason Tatum, but he didn't. He wouldn't. And to see him throw up these ridiculous shots, these ridiculous threes. If I were to ask you, what play or what, when you think of Marcus Smart, what is like the one game or the one play that comes to your mind? Now, if you said something to the effect of the James Harden game against Houston, where he forced Harden into all those fouls and getting the ball back and then coming from behind and winning, that's definitely one. But if you also thought, well, he also had that awful shot against Miami in game 6 that Derek White saved his ass because he followed the ball to the hoop. Yeah, it's literally, he's the hustle player and then he makes the awful shots. And I'm sorry, basketball is a game about scoring buckets. And as I said earlier, Marcus Smart had an ego that his talent couldn't cash. And that is something where there is no chance on this earth where his number deserves to be up in the rafters. And speaking of the rafters, this is how they stand right now. That is 2, 4, 6, 8, 16. That is 24 different numbers, 23 different numbers because Jim Leskatoff is Losky. 23 different numbers that are retired. That's a lot. That is a lot of freaking numbers. And I want to go through, just briefly, I want to go through each of them because I think there are some we can either pull off or we can use back, we can put the jersey back in the rotation. So starting with number 22, we have Ed McCauley, who spent 6 years in Boston from 1950 to 1956. And to that I go, who? How many Celtics fans out there know who the hell Ed McCauley is? Not a lot. Not a lot. And then 14, you got the Wizard of Worcester, Bob Cousy, who was instrumental in the Bill Russell championship days. So I'll leave it. But 22, gone. Next, going down. 23, Frank Ramsey spent his entire career 54 to 64. So he was a part of the Bill Russell championships. But once again, who? So he's a guy, 23, should go back in the fold. 15, Tommy Heinsohn. Big fan of Tommy. I only got to know Tommy Heinsohn as the color commentator to the Celtics, broadcast. So, in which helped me, learn about the game, learn about the history. So for Tommy, I say yes. Tommy, you can stay up there. And plus, he was a great player. Like, don't get me wrong, because I did the research on that. I like Tommy. He's a great player. So I will leave him up there. But personally, I only know him as the color commentator. So from that, Frank Ramsey, 23, back in the fold. 15 can stay up there. Next, 21, Bill Sharman. How many times will I have to say who? Who the hell is Bill Sharman? Okay? So because of that, 21 goes back into the fold. I don't care that he was here for 10 seasons. And if you know who he is, please leave a comment. Hit me up on my Twitter at BOS Sports Summit, okay? Do it because I will gladly get into a debate about all of these numbers. Gladly. Next, 25, Casey Jones. Casey Jones, I know of as the coach during the mid-'80s when the Celtics won in 84 and 86. So Casey, sure, he can be up there. Sam Jones, he's also 24. Again, during the Bill Russell era, you know what? I'm good with that. And then, of course, number 6, Bill Russell has to be there. Number 6 has to be up on the rafters. If not, he should have a rafter of 6 by himself. That's how important this man not only was to the Celtics organization, but to the NBA as a whole. So number 6, without a doubt, not a shred of doubt. Then we move on. Number 1 is Walter Brown, the founder and first owner who died in 1964. He's the founder and first owner. I don't mind that his name, he's up there, but I don't think he should be represented by a number. I think it should just be, kind of similar to Losky, W. Brown or, Walter Brown, something like that. So take 1 off the board, but leave Walter Brown's name up there. And then we have 16, Tom Satch Sanders. He was very good, during the 60s and then in the 70s. Again, I'm going to be honest. I don't know a whole heck of a lot about him. I have heard of the name plenty of times before because watching all these guys, watching the interviews, listening to somebody like Kevin McHale, who is up on the rafters, but Kevin McHale talks a lot about the Celtic history and the players that came before him. So, you know what? I'll leave it. But then the next one, this is great. Don freaking Nelson. Why is his number up there? Because for those of you who don't know, he is a traitor to the Celtic Green. He coached another team and talks crap about Casey Jones. And of course, and I'm pretty sure it's the 86 Celtics that he did this to. He talks crap about Casey Jones. I think something to the effect of calling, saying that he's a better coach than Casey or something like that. Don't hold me to that. I'm going to be honest. Don't hold me to that. But he talked crap about a former Celtic and I think one of his former teammates. And then of course the 86 Celtics kicked that team's ass. Pretty sure it was the Bucks. So kicked their ass, and rightfully so, because they got pissed because that was their coach. And here's a man who wore the Celtic green, and that's how you're gonna treat your former teammate. Like, give me a break. So Don Nelson, you're a traitor. I will tell it to your face, but I think he's gone. So R.I.P. No, but Don Nelson's number 19 should absolutely be back in the fold. Moving on, Jim Luskatoff, his number was 18, and he did the right thing. He said to them, they want to retire 18, and he goes, no, I don't want you to retire 18. If you want to still retire me, you can throw me up under a nickname. And there we go. Love it. Perfect. That we can do. And then, of course, his number did get retired, and it was number 18, which is right below Losky by Dave Cowens. Now, Dave Cowens did win a championship here in Boston in the 70s, so I'm good with Dave. 17, John Hondo Havlicek, the infamous Havlicek stole the ball. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. Havlicek stole the ball. Johnny Most on the call. Unbelievable. Have to be up there. Havlicek was one of the top players in NBA history, I think, in terms of points, in scoring. He is by far well-deserving of his 17 being retired. And then next, we got 10 with JoJo White. And listen, again, I'm not entirely sure about JoJo. Again, I'm not saying that he wasn't a great player. I just don't really know enough about him and about his play. Like, I can look up the stats all I want, but at the end of the day, I don't know enough about his play and his style and how he was, as instrumental to those teams. And then, of course, number 2 is Red Auerbach. Red Auerbach, without a doubt, has to be up there. Number 3, Dennis Johnson. I like DJ. He was definitely an important cog in that piece and during the mid 80s, early and mid 80s. But again, I don't know. I don't think he should be his number retired. Now, as for 33, 32, and double zero being Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, yes, without a doubt. The original big three, without a doubt. Then you got 35, who's Reggie Lewis. And I think Reggie's number is of a special circumstance. I think with what happened with him, he was a very talented player, drafted in 87, and unfortunately died on the court in 93. I think, and what he meant to the organization and what he did for the community of Boston. I forget where it is. I want to say it's Brockton, but they have the Reggie Lewis Center. So he meant a lot to the community. And with the tragic passing of Reggie Lewis, I do like the fact that his number is retired. And then 31, Cedric Maxwell. He was the Finals MVP in 81, I think. So definitely, I think he was a good player. And then 34 and 5, Paul Pierce. Yes, should be retired without a doubt. But then 5 and Garnett. And you can make the argument for either way. In my opinion, you can make the argument either way. I love Garnett. I've loved him as a Timberwolf before he came to Boston, and then he came to Boston. Loved him even more there. Definitely had an impact on the city, the culture of the Celtics. And his style of play was probably something that I always idled and wanted to just have that intensity. So, but he's also only here from what 07 to 12. Something like that, maybe 13. So it wasn't like he was here long and only won one title. But, to me, you can make the argument for Garnett either way. So with that being said, there's a bunch of numbers up there. It's too much. Can we please, just do some house cleaning with that? That's all I ask. And then the Celtics went out and before the trade deadline made a couple of acquisitions, trading for Xavier Tillman, who they acquired from the Grizzlies, for Lamar Stevens and a 2027, 2030 second-round pick. And they also traded for Jaden Springer, the winger from the 76ers, which I was kind of surprised, but looking at it, he hasn't gotten much playing time neither. Tillman hasn't got it much either, but Springer is young. He was drafted 28th overall in the 2021 NBA draft. He's young, athletic, and if the Celtics have to part ways with some guys and he's developing, I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Springer on. Whereas Xavier Tillman, he's, again, young. He's 25. And in the 34 games with the Grizz, he's averaged 6 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 1 block. I think with Tillman, he is a good depth piece. And I don't need him to score 15, 20 points a game. I just need somebody to bring in that depth piece. That's the type of dude that I'm excited for. And if he can get in and be that defensive, stronghold underneath and go up against some of the big guys, then I'm all for it.